obviously, it should go without saying that when you have an organization who responds to former members who simply share online about their experiences, whether they're right or wrong, and they respond to that by filing multi-million-dollar lawsuits, I would say that's something to step back and ask yourself, does this look like an organization that is being led by God?
A lot of the things that they do, in my opinion, are designed in that way to get you to fall in line, like you say. When it comes to the love bombing and then all of a sudden withholding that attention or withholding the affection that someone may pretend to have for you. I remember when I started asking questions, all of a sudden I was like separate away from everybody else. And I remember asking my husband at the time, like, why am I all of a sudden sitting all the way over here, far away from where I normally sit with the sisters that I normally sit with? And he said, well, because they're afraid that you're going to infect the other sisters with your doubts. And then, started talking about gangrene. And I don't remember if it's 1st or 2nd Timothy. I forget the verse. It's been so long that, I was going to spread all of that doubt like a cancer and kill all of these people. And it was just at that point, because I was mentally sort of out at that point, it just seemed so ridiculous. Because I'm just asking questions. But if this is how the organization reacts to anyone asking questions, then to me, that was a huge, huge red flag. And one of the last services I attended was, I forget the title exactly. I have it in my notes somewhere. It was like something about faith equaling blind obedience, that whoever has very high faith does not ask questions, just obeys and just does whatever he or she is told to do. And I think that, the changes in the doctrine and them telling you one day, the world's going to end in 2012. And then when it doesn't happen, saying, oh, we never said that, and making you think you're crazy. Like you said, the gaslighting, that is to destabilize you. That is for you to just submit and give up and be like, you know what, whatever you say, just tell me what you want me to do, because the alternative to that is to suffer in there, either by being ostracized or by being treated differently or a smear campaign. There are many things that they can do to sort of punish you while you're still in there. Or, separate your loved one from you because of your doubts, because you might infect them. It's typical narcissistic abuse, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I hope you don't miss that word that Michelle just used, which is, well, narcissism, of course. We could talk about that all day related to the WMSCOG, right. But this word abuse, that particularly, I want, again, thinking of this intended audience, if you are considering joining, and again, if you're in the WMSCOG, I would find it hard to believe that you're not able, if you've been in there for any number of months, especially if you've been in there for a year or more, that you could hear what's being said and stop and say, you know what, I can kind of relate to some of that. And the purpose of us saying these things is to say, that's not okay. That is not healthy. That is not an accurate reflection of God or the gospel or people who are underneath him and walking, operating in his kingdom. These are not behaviors that they will be functioning in. Manipulation and gaslighting, which is a big part of what we talk about. Filing multi-million-dollar lawsuits against somebody who left your organization and simply shared about her experiences online for others. Jesus said, love your enemies. He said, pray and bless those who persecute you. Worst case scenario, for the sake of the argument, if the WMSCOG was the truth, I say that with gigantic air quotes right now because it's not. If it were even, think about how an organization that is the truth of God should have, according to the commandments of Jesus, responded to somebody like Michelle. bless your enemies, pray for those who persecute you. Well, here comes Michelle Cologne, air quote, persecuting the truth of God. Well, how has our Lord told us to respond to those sort of scenarios? Is it to file did Jesus say, hey, if somebody slaps you on the cheek, go get your lawyer? Hey, if somebody are you being persecuted, church? Well, here's what to do. You get the best lawyers out there and you go for their pockets. You get their money. You file lawsuits, you use the court systems, and you make them pay for what they've done. Is that what Jesus did? Did he say silence them? Go and silence your persecutors. Shut their mouths by whatever means necessary. Whether you have to lie, you have to hack into their social media accounts. I'm not saying they've done that, but maybe they have. Maybe they've tried. It would seem like maybe they've tried to do that. Allegedly, they allegedly. We're not saying they have or have not. That's for you to decide.
I can say that they have.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, that's what part of my lawsuit is about. Yes. They did hack into my, back then there wasn't that much social media really. This is back in 2010. But there were online like message boards and things and email accounts that were hacked into. And that just goes to show you that they don't tolerate criticism and dissent. So they want to shut all of that down. And by any means possible, whether it's damage control or spying or gaslighting or smear campaigns, whatever the case may be, because I think, the lawsuit was also a smear campaign because they tried to paint me as just some scorned wife. I was upset because, they made my husband leave me because they convinced him that I was Satan and all this other stuff. No, this is a much bigger issue. It always has been. The goal was to help other people and try to help them prevent them from experiencing what I did, because I thought it was wrong. And back then there wasn't much information out there, and the little information there was about them that was critical about them, a good portion of that was also controlled by the church. So they wanted control of that also. That's something for another video, but and then if you become too much, they'll just kick you out. Or they'll treat you badly enough so that you'll want to leave, so that you can't say that they kicked you out. So, that's how they handle that.
Yeah. And I want to say one thing too, just real quick, if I could say one thing, because I know a lot of people who are just now joining, or not even joining, but just now talking with and studying with the WMSCOG. A lot of them say that, the church always asks me, do I have any questions, right? They're so friendly about insisting that my questions are answered. And to that, I want to say, give it time. You're new, and questions are, if it's about the doctrine, it's allowed. If it's about what you've seen online, they may or may not be nice to you when they're going through it. But give it time. Because I think it was Anthony who said, once they get past King David, and, they hear about Ansang Hong, and they hear about, the church believes that God the Mother is a Korean woman who's living today, right? Once you get to that point and you still have questions, you'll see the difference. So.
Right. So the point here in saying all this with Michelle's point is just to say, those of you who are thinking about joining or have joined this group, or I'd even extend that to those who have left the group and now you're looking back saying, what in the world was that? And you're disoriented emotionally, mentally, spiritually, just to say that the things that Michelle and all these other members here are corroborating together about how this organization functions, that is not an accurate reflection of God or the gospel. That is not an accurate reflection of what it looks like for a disciple of Jesus to do as he says, and to love your enemies, pray for those who persecute you. Paul, as he says, let your gentleness be made known to all. If a doubting brother comes to you, he'll say in places, be patient with those who doubt. And so when you have an organization that makes you feel small, lesser than, less intelligent, less spiritual, like you have less faith, when you simply come to them with genuine questions or concerns, that's a problem. That's a red flag. And obviously, it should go without saying that when you have an organization who responds to former members who simply share online about their experiences, whether they're right or wrong, and they respond to that by filing multi-million-dollar lawsuits, I would say that that's something to step back and ask yourself, does this look like an organization that is being led by God and operating in God's kingdom, which is said to be one of, Paul talks about love, the definition of love given in 1 Corinthians 13. And I would just say, if you step back and consider it, I think you should see that there's very good reason to doubt whether this organization is really what they say they are, based on, this point that Michelle has given.
And one thing, and also too, who also sues people for speaking out? The Church of Scientology. And Leah Remini had that show, the Aftermath. I think it's on like Netflix or Hulu now. And in it she says, if the organization that you belong to claims to have the truth, like Scientology, like the WMSCOG, right? They should be able to stand up to criticism. And so they shouldn't be wary. If they're the real truth, they shouldn't be wary of any kind of questions or any kind of concerns, because theoretically they would have an answer to it that actually makes sense.